Hi, Jessica.
Hi, Prachee.
My apologies. I lost track of time.
No problem.
How are
How are
you?
you this morning?
I am well.
Good. It's great to meet you.
Likewise.
Yeah, I just have a few questions about what
Yes.
quantum therapeutics has been like for you. Yeah. Um, when you started, what were you dealing with, or what did you come in bumping up against?
Um, so I was specifically looking for somebody who could help me heal through my complex PTSD symptoms. And so in December, through my own research work, talking to a few people, reading books, things that I was um, feeling, sensing in the way I was behaving, right? The way things that I was um, encountering, right? Just in my head, my thoughts, right? This constant sense of feeling that I'm in danger of some kind or something like that. There's these typical, um, what do you call it? This typical traits almost, right? Or symptoms, if I may, that point to um, complex PTSD. And I started looking for, you know, more research online, what sort of, what's out there, um, who could help, with these kind of issues. And I came across Cherie's website, um, focused specifically on complex PTSD, right? And then the concept that it's different from PTSD as it's generally known, right? So complex PTSD, born out of childhood trauma, right? Many different um, ways in which an individual can experience complex PTSD symptoms much later in life. Um, so yeah, so I had pretty much all of that, and I think the way she described it on her website resonated quite a bit with me. And then that led me to, scheduling a meeting with her. Um, yeah, and then that's how it
So
all
you were
started.
in fear a lot, or anxiety a lot, or what was it looking like the most?
Um,
What you were
yeah,
dealing
it
with?
wasn't anxiety as much, but it was the sense that um, this was the sense that I was, yeah, like, my fight or flight was on, right? So pretty much. And then, from a relationship perspective, I almost had one foot out the door because this constant thing that I need to take care of myself or I'm not being taken care of the way um, I wanted to be taken care of, right? Um, and I'm just sort of putting it out there, but that was sort of my sense all the time, right? And I was like, why is this triggering me? So I knew I was triggered. That was the thing because I'm a coach myself, right? I've gone through a lot of um, healing processes in other ways. So I knew this was not my normal sort of state of being. So I knew something was off, right? Um, and then in December, so this just like Thanksgiving sort of was a trigger, Thanksgiving time frame. I forget exactly what it was, but I knew something was not right. So because I was constantly feeling this flight. For me, it was more flight uh, feeling. And then a few weeks later, I was watching, I think it was Chronicles of Narnia of all the movies, and the depiction of Aslan as Jesus and stuff like that. Obviously it's a C.S. Lewis inspired movie. So anyways, as walking through that, there was suddenly this thing saying, "Oh my God, what happened to me in my childhood was sexual abuse." So that suddenly dawned on me as well, and so that's when my quest started to say, okay, there are some other things which I have not yet named, um, and it sort of unfolded from there. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, thank you. So when
Yeah.
you have a quantum therapeutic session, what was that like, and how did things look different afterwards?
Oh, it was great. I think the first time I met Cherie, we talked about, even before I signed up to do, to work with her, we talked about sort of the patterns and the feelings I was constantly feeling. Her clarity about the subject was important, right? And that she understood it. And I almost appreciated the fact that she had gone through it herself, right? She wasn't just somebody who had gone out and educated herself about the topic, but she has a pretty compelling story. I think at some level it feels like it's much more complicated than my situation, but having somebody who's experienced that was important to me. And then going through the sessions in the first few sessions was interesting, because she sort of takes you back into your timeline, right? You're kind of going and reliving that experience herself, and you sort of integrate those dissociated parts of yourself, right, into your current reality. And that was very powerful for me, so those memories or those sort of flashbacks I was having, I don't have them anymore, right? So those particular moments that subconsciously were affecting me just somehow were just gone, which was great. The other thing, the way I liked it, was the way she structured the program. We met twice a week for the first 3 months or something, and then we went down to weekly. And in those were like intense sessions, right? We would literally go back into the timeline. I would tell her what's bothering me, and we would kind of just find that spot. And so that cleaning up the past timeline was a very impactful exercise for me.
Awesome. Yeah. And then when you would work on strategy for, like, because that's a piece of it. And I'm sure you all did some of that, like strategy for present day things you're wanting to look different, jumping or going into time and cleaning up the timeline. And then on the other side,
yes, I'm looking up my notes.
What were the sessions like where she would, you all would strategize or look at actions you could take today?
I think the position we shifted was, I'm not healing anymore. That part of me is like done, right? You're already healed, whole, complete. I'm learning to live differently, manifest and live on purpose, guided by feelings I desire to feel and experience. I'm just literally reading from my notes from our last call. And also this mentality of compensating for what you didn't receive, right? Versus doing something that is in highest and best interest of myself and all. I think that was important. And the perspective that the good that I'm trying to bring in the world through my existence and through the work I do, right, the service I'm trying to offer to other people, I am part of that people, right? I'm not separate from it. I think that was an important perspective. She says we are part of the we. So when you're wanting to improve the collective we, don't forget that you're part of it. So you equally deserve the goodness, that you are wishing for other people, because you're not separate from that, right? So that is an important, like, I keep reminding myself of that, right? Because as we're living life saying we want to serve others, we're also part of an other for somebody else. So we equally deserve the goodness that we're wanting for other people. So that was an interesting thing. And then also move into a place where I'm intentionally learning to use words and manifest things differently now, not from a place of fear, right? And that what, should, could are contracting words. So that's something I mentally practice almost on a daily basis. And then I'm just looking through something, my notes.
I love that. that, when you do what's your highest best,
Yeah.
it's going to benefit everyone around you, and you're part of that. I definitely feel that.
Yeah, exactly.
And then
Exactly.
the
And then
jumping, it's like getting, your younger self to get what they need makes it possible for today for you to even feel like, oh, what's in my highest best does actually matter. Like, I'm worth
right.
it. It goes hand in hand.
Yeah. Yeah. That was an important one. And like, it's like how, and as women, we have birthed and nurtured everyone that exists today, right? Collectively as women. And for her, like, sexual abuse is a big part of, of children, is a big part of the work that she does around families and kids. For her, I know that's a big motivation, but also saying, because what is it that we're teaching the next generation as mothers as well, right? That to sexual abuse as a societal disease, for that matter, the pervasiveness and the rampant presence of it across cultures, right? I mean, I grew up in India, she grew up in the US, very different cultures and backgrounds and experiences and exposures, but we went through similar things that basically, messed with our heads, right? And at different times, like, she's older than I mean, so like for us, so that collective, we also, from a feminine standpoint, what is it that we're allowing to happen to our children as well, right? Part of it is our own empowerment to say no, and part of it is, when you play along because you don't have a better choice. So those sort of like the collective we also represents, because we've birthed and nurtured, everybody, every human being, woman's given birth to.
Right. Yeah, and you said earlier, like, you're well now, if I heard you right, or like you're not dealing with the same things as when you came in.
Not as intense as it was. I wouldn't say it's gone 100%. It never actually does, right? It's the impact it has on you, right? Because that's just a part of your past, right? You never totally erase it. What's happened to you, you've processed through it. You've kind of, you recognize it when it's bubbling up, and then you figure out a way to process through it and live with that, right? So it's not to say it doesn't have the same power over you. I think it's the power that you get back going through the process that you go through with her, right? Because you can't change your timeline. That's what she says. You can't erase it, right? You can't, when we sort of travel back in the past, it's not like I can change the sequence of events. Those events happened, right? And they've been written as part of eternity. That's what they are. But the idea is to not let that dictate how you choose to act and be, and choose to have in the future.
Right? And you can change your mind. You can't change that it happened, literally happened. But you can change your mind. And that's,
and then part of your fight flight system is embedded in your mind, right? And that's what gets affected the most, because any signaling, even of present day events that come through, goes through that filter of your fight flight, freeze and fawn, right? Those 3 or 4 different types of reactions. Even to get to your currently developed brain, it has to go through that passage. But if that's hyperactive because of what you've gone through, this is just from a scientific perspective, then it's a problem, right? And us having to go back and make sure those memories, those triggers are not taking over, right?
Have you learned? I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. That's
Have you learned through Quantum Therapeutix, like, how to get back in your body, stay in your body? Yeah. What's that been like, that piece of it?
I think it's the consciousness, right? That you're conscious of what is happening, right? And some days are better than others, right? So it's not, I've been going through it now we started in the end of January. So now it's like fourth or fifth month. Um, but it's been good. And also the idea, because you're not in that state anymore, you free up energy to focus on things, right? I've learned to relax. One of the things which was great that she asked me to do was part of the product of what happened to me was in this getting in this hyperachieving mode and not being okay with the process, right? To um and to then beat myself up over that, right? Just like, oh, why isn't it, uh, why am I not seeing results in any endeavor that I'm doing now, right? It has to be like I wanted to see results yesterday, even though something I started learning today, right? So that learning process, some other issues, not it wasn't just sexual abuse, there's some other things, but just growing up in the family background that I grew up with, um, not learning quickly was a problem for me, and it still is. And so what Cherie had me do was literally go to Michael's and pick up, walk through the store and pick up something that appealed to me. So like that, bringing back that playfulness and just the process of learning and making it okay uh, was important. So about 3 to 4 weeks, I got into chocolate modeling. Of all the things, that was something that I picked up. It wasn't painting, it wasn't that. I wanted to do something with my hands. And and she just said, allow yourself some play time, so some breathing time, and it was okay if it wasn't perfect, and so that helped me observe how much pressure I put myself to learn something quickly and fast versus give myself the time to be like, okay, this is the first time I'm literally molding chocolate, like it'll take me a few tries, right? And that has now become symbolic of anything else I'm endeavoring to do, especially standing up, two businesses that I feel like are calling me to move them and birth them and create them, right? And being okay with it and recognizing. And another thing that came out of it was recognizing sort of what is it that I'm brought here or meant here to do, right? So things that are coming to me as opposed to me chasing them, and just showing up for them in a more holistic manner, right? So it's not bits and pieces, but really taking that as a responsibility to say, I've been given this idea, or I've been given this, project that is showing up in my experience over and over again. So I got to do something about it versus, me thinking, oh, I got to be a coach and so and completely ignoring it. So come here to do what I've come here to do, kind of thing, without fear of any consequence.
So it's like more organic coming to the things that you're going to do, just inside out.
Inside out, yes, and being receptive to what is coming to you, right? Versus trying to fit something that I think I should be doing or I need to do.
Right.
Yeah.
For me, I used to be extremely hard on myself over everything.
Yeah.
And that fell away like almost completely for me. So don't miss that. I don't miss that.
Exactly. I think I'm getting there. I think it takes time for me. There was a lot of and there was a lot of fear around results and even money, right? So now that I'm shifting into a more entrepreneurial mindset, just getting there mentally and not, like you said, right, being more okay with myself and the way I'm operating is
ourselves that like we're progress is eternal, just like
yes, and I know, well, recognize when I'm resisting something, right? I resist, the way things are turning up. So, and not getting all up in arms about it, but truly thinking about it as, okay, well, this is, what's here. What do I do with it?
So what is your specific work you do now? Because, have you gotten more alignment with it or comfortable, or, I mean, from what you said, you have. And I'm just curious how maybe how it's specifically changed, or if it has.
I think for me, it's the most important one is to be okay with whatever is showing up, and then being more verbal about what I'm feeling about it, and let things evolve organically. I wouldn't say I'm 100% completely, in a good space where it's like, oh yeah, it's fine if it's not working out or whatever. But I think the surrendering more, and then allowing myself to evolve, I think is gotten a lot better. But if I tell you I'm totally free of anxiety or like agitation, I'm not yet. But I feel like
and you're
getting
still
there.
in the program, and it is a process, and it's like learning to live differently now that we've adjusted these things in our mind and on our timeline. And so I get it. Like, have there been practical, tangible changes or things that have changed out here that you can think of?
I think just the shift, right? I mean, I have a full-time job, and I'm trying to do this stuff around cybersecurity, and I keep telling her this happened and this opportunity came up, and this is, and she's like, yeah, these are signs, right? Just recognizing them and responding, because part of it was like, am I really interested in doing this or not, right? Because part of me was like, yeah, I'd rather be cooking, or I'd rather be doing this, and then really deciphering that, saying, okay, you like doing this, but then you keep coming upon this, this thing with cybersecurity, and I'm going, yeah, but it's not exactly engaging or like titillating, stimulating to me all at the same time. But part of it is, but then why is it showing up for me over and over again, right? So it's like, yeah, maybe that's what you're meant to be doing. And some of it feels easy and some of it feels hard. Right now I'm going through a phase where it's feeling harder than it should be. But part of it is really standing up the structure and systems around the business itself versus the content, right? This is something I'm building with my partner. And then it was a wish of mine at one point was to be able to work with my partner, my husband, in doing and making money together. And so it feels like that's coming to fruition. But at some point, like even today, we have to go for an event, and part of me doesn't want to go. Just doesn't. I just want to sit here and read more. But then there's an inside part of me that's saying, well, it's okay. You don't know how to swim, but it's okay if you want to go and just try out. It's fine if you don't do it. Just show up. So that, I think, is a tangible. And I'm getting emotional as I'm saying it. I don't know why, but it was just like, I don't want to go. So yeah.
It's getting more and more clear on what is for you and what isn't. And, your why.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, we're getting access to, a group of what should be our customers, right? Our real customers. It's like a happy hour before a conference tomorrow, and they've invited us to a closed door event with some of their speakers and stuff who are leaders in their companies, who ideally would be our clients, right? And so having this opportunity to just go and show up there and talk to them, and I'm just like, well, what the fuck do I tell them? I don't have my, these ready. So it's almost just like, whoa. And I almost just want to send Brian, my partner, and I don't want to go, but I'm like, okay, that's also not the right thing to do, because that means I'm not showing up. So that dialogue is happening in my head, because I can feel my resistance saying, I don't know how to do this, versus, but I still need to show up and learn.
I've experienced something similar. I mean, I know this is more of hearing what your experience has been versus me telling you mine, but like,
yeah, please.
Something I've been doing even more lately is going in my corpus callosum and, allowing myself to access like when I'm in a situation where I'm concerned, am I going to know what to say, or am I going to be able to access what I'm there to express, you know? But then you just say, like, you have that concern when you go there, or you feel like you don't have the information. But like, I do think there's a place for book knowledge and having knowledge of information and how to make things work. But then there's also a place for the fact that we can access whatever we need to know and express in any given moment if we get that part of our brain. It really puts us in like that Zen place, as if we were sitting still meditating transcendentally, but we can just be in there all the time and use our heart and our brain, our heart, and our gut at the same time. Because, you know, this just really helped me learn how to listen better. Also, like my doing Quantum Therapeutix, you know, and I'm still perfecting it, you know, like it's never, challenges don't go away and refining myself doesn't go away. But those big hurdles and things that really having me stuck in my life have fallen away. And
so what exactly are you doing? You say you go into your corpus. That's completely, I forgot to tell you that exercise is also important, where you sort of like, you know, as you're standing on the bridge between the right and the left brain and sort of integrating that. So yes, that was an important one. I forgot to mention that. So what is it that you typically do? You just like sort of go back there and
I guess I'm just saying, in situations where I'm having some trepidation, like, am I prepared for this, or am I going to know what to say? You know, moving into like looking at my life of experiences and allowing my intuition to work, and just going in, you know, making sure my wisdom circuit is connected has just helped me a lot to trust that I am enough and I can show up in any given situation, and you know, not just in my brain, you know, use love for whatever interaction I'm having, you know, even if it's for work or parenting or whatever it is. I was just relating, you know, relating, like you said, you know.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing that you mentioned that. No, thank you for mentioning that, because I completely slipped my mind that I can do that. Like, I was so, like I said, I think this is one of those moments where I was overcome with it. And I was just like, OMG, I don't even want to go. So I'm glad we had the conversation. Well, see, this was at the right time, I guess.
You know, and you may have already spoke to this, but if you picked one thing that's changed the most since you've, you know, done Quantum Therapeutix, what would that be?
Oh boy.
And you did mention, you know, you've already mentioned several things that have changed.
Yeah, you said the one thing, so I'm thinking what was the most, I think the recognition that a lot of the things that I thought I had caused in my life, so like, you know, the sexual, like separating myself from the sexual abuse and things like that, was something that happened to me, right? And versus I hadn't realized that, yes, those happened to me as opposed to I was part of them. Does that make sense? Like, that separation was very important, because it gave me an opportunity to recognize that, holy shit, I went through a lot in my life, you know, like that was very profound for me, because so for me, there were several different levels, right? The sexual abuse early on, and then I grew up like at the bottom of the rung of our caste system in India. And so all the narratives that I had internalized from that, right? So I didn't, because I'm also, from an energy standpoint, I absorb things very quickly, right? From that standpoint, just recognizing that those were external things that happened to me, right? That was important, and that gave me to say, okay, I am my entity, but sexual abuse happened to me. Those things, colorism happened to me, right? When, you know, I grew up in the environment that I grew up, And the events that transpired as part of my childhood also happened to me while I was there and I was handling all these things. Those were my survival mechanisms that I learned, which are now have served me well in many different ways, but all those events were external. I didn't cause anything, right? So I think we become so embroiled with it that it forgets that where it starts and where you end, and where that kind of thing. So you're just part of that nebulous cloud, but I could form my own. If I were to visualize it, yeah, I was part of this cloud where I thought I was part of the whole, the cloudy foaminess of it. But no, I could see my own form in it, right? And be like, those were real challenges I experienced. So that explains why I am the way I am. That was really important for me to recognize. So, and then the whole journey of the compassion, the whole journey of, recognition and compassion, self-compassion is something I'm learning to do. But just knowing that was like, holy crap, And if somebody else told me they went through all of that, I would have like, an outpouring of empathy for them, right? And sympathy, which I'm learning to offer myself.
You used to believe you caused it, or there was a lot of shame and guilt, or like
a lot of shame and guilt, yeah, a lot of shame and guilt, yeah. I think that's the best way to put it. So some of the shame has subsided. I wouldn't say it's gone. I think it's going, but I recognize it when it surfaces. So,
right.
Yeah, and I got teary even as I was saying that, so it was an interesting. So yeah.
Right, like when we're blamed for everything so much of the time, then we get a program that believing that it was our fault. So sometimes it's like you misplace shame and guilt, or if it is rightly placed, just learning how to be like, okay, what am I going to do different next, so that this shame and guilt actually bears fruit. Otherwise, it's useless.
Yeah, for me, it was misplaced. And I think it was me myself that had done that to me. It wasn't like people outside were calling me out for it, So it was all, it still is internal. So yeah.
I really appreciate your courage to visit with me today about all this.
Thank you. I think it was important. It was timely because I was literally having a conversation with Brian about going to this event tonight. So maybe I'll sit with it for a bit.
And mentioning Brian, like what have friends and family said? Like, if anything, friends or family, since you've done Quantum Therapeutix?
He is eagerly waiting for the day he says that, I can see myself the way he sees me. So I think I'm getting there. And I think Cherie has been important in helping me see the value and goodness of what I have, and not fall out of gratitude. And to be grateful for that. That's something I'm struggling with lately, is to get back in a state of gratitude, which is the recent challenge I'm working with her on. Again, it's the should thing. It's getting into that, there's, things are not the way it should be right now. So
it's a process. You're doing it.
I don't. Can't wait to be further along. Like I said, hyperachieving. But yeah, it is the process. It is humbling me in a big way. Yeah.
Would you say, for what you've done up to this point, has it been a successful endeavor?
Yeah. I look forward to talking to her. Yeah. And I've been thinking about, or I'm yet to plan something concrete, but she and I have talked about meeting in person as well. So I'll go and visit her. So that would be an important experience, I think. So I'll probably figure that out with her as well.
Yeah, you should do that. We live in the same town, so I would hopefully get to meet you.
Cool. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I did not know that. Oh, cool. Sure, I will let you know.